Hello. Hey everybody. Thank you for coming today to Flyleaf. We appreciate your support of our bookstore and of Ross, our friend, / my, yes. Ross was once my nemesis for no real reason, which I hope some of you can relate to. But yes, this evening we have the pleasure of celebrating him and his book of poetry, Charm Offensive. Ross White, winner of the Sexton Prize for Poetry, published 3 chapbooks before the publication of his debut book of poetry, Charm Offensive. He is the director of Bull City Press, an independent publisher where he hosts The Chapbook, a podcast devoted to chapbooks. He teaches creative writing, podcasting, publishing, and grammar at UNC Chapel Hill. Okay, we hope you enjoy. If you want to grab a copy of, I think we may have 1 copy of Charm Offensive left and several of Valley of Want. So get a chapbook if we don't know. After the talk.
And that is the reason you have to be nice to people, because eventually if you're mean, they'll introduce you at a poetry reading. And they'll be like, that's my nemesis. I'm glad that we're no longer nemesis.
We'll see.
Yeah. It's, the hatred has returned. Okay. No, that just means I have to do a good reading or it's over. Hi, welcome. I am delighted to see all of you and so many of you. It's a unique thrill. I think this is the first time I read at Flyleaf in 7 or 8 years. So thank you to Alex and to Flyleaf for having me here. Let's do this thing, yeah? I like too many things to ever be satisfied with one. The giant squid and mountain lion mesmerize me equally, as do other pears. Blackberry and watermelon, puppies and kittens, underbrush and lichen, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, beer and white Russians, turkey and mutton, domestic and foreign, polyester and cotton, dirty laundry and fresh linen, Incas and Mayans, black holes and ions, sensory deprivation and cosmic vision. I am a sort of griffin, head of a wanderer, heart of a dragon, allegiance to neither. So my attention, battered, is often cloven, and I, smitten with a new idea or fascinating button, appear a cretin. But I am unruined. I speak a pidgin, but listen to the origins of the word. A smidgen of Korean, a smidgen of Britain, laden with an unburdened appreciation of living. My written communications have the same enlightened tone. If you're bitten with the same or similar affliction, and others often listen in bewilderment as though it is Latin to what you consider common sense. Otherwise, I beg your pardon. I could draw it for you in crayon. There is a heaven. In it, all things are in pairs, or triplets, or sevens. So that is the first poem from Charm Offensive, and I feel like that's a wonderful statement that I have ADHD. I like to believe that the first poem in the book sort of tells you a little bit about how that book is to be read, and I hope what you heard is that guy is easily distracted by shiny things, and it's true. So I'm going to read from Charm Offensive tonight, which just came out in the US on July 1st, but I'm also going to bounce back and forth with Valley of Want, because there's sort of an interesting story. Charm Offensive was finished in 2012. I added a couple poems in 2016. It went out to a contest in 2017. It was named the winner in 2018, and they finally put me under contract in 2019. Then some things happened that you may remember, and the book didn't come out till 2023. So for me, this is like an old book. This is like my early poems. And so in 2019 and 2020, I wrote this book, which came out in November of 21. So weirdly, my older book is my new book. So I'm going to read from both. and have a little fun, because this came out at the height of my COVID anxiety, and so I just didn't do many readings then. So now we'll do it. Who here likes Dorianne Locks? Yeah, right? What a poet she is. And when you love a poet, you're going to try to steal from that poet, which I did. Expert advice for living a full and happy life. Get drunk every day. Punch a wall every day. Throw rocks every day. Rocks at squirrels and mice. Steal something every day. At least that's what Dorianne Locks said. Something small and hopeful. Play poker every day. Gamble away a fortune every day. Make something terrible every day with your hands. Not violent, mind you, but terrible. The kind of bad parents hang on refrigerators. The kind of bad that cracks in a middle school kiln. Throw up every day. Shoot a rifle at the constellations every day. Accuse them of being too close. They are, those stars, too close. They see something in you no terrestrial body can see, but it's there, in you, because you feel it every day. Do what you can to suppress that part of yourself. And if it must come out, channel it into wickedness that hurts no one but you. Victimless crimes, they'll call what you do. Isn't it lovely to not have a victim? To not be a victim? Get wise every day. Feed the cat every day. Fold laundry every day, even the fitted sheets. Send a postcard or a text to a friend every day with a dumb platitude or a rude drawing. See how long you can make the cat believe you're a good person. Then your boss, your wife, your priest, your yoga teacher. Chain the days together like days without an accident. Red X's on a calendar until they number in the hundreds, the thousands. Get old every day. Do your stretching, take your statins, trim your nose or ear hairs every day. You'll die from it, all of it, but no one will tell you that you can't. Can't die like that. Look in the mirror every day and dismiss all that horrible. All that horrible. You can see it. The constellations can smell it on you. The squirrels and mice know. The rats. Yeah, it starts out fun and then it gets dark. Aha, that's my whole personality. Which has not been fun for my wife. Wait, hold on. She's here. I love it when she comes to reading. So, hey, Bubs, do you want me to read a love poem for you? Can I read a love poem for you? She's gonna have to roll. But I like her a lot. So I'm gonna read you the first love poem that I ever got right. I had tried a bunch of love poems early in our marriage. I had failed at all of them. And then one day I was at a restaurant in, what's that called up there with the pastel colored houses? Never mind. It's up by the Harris Teeter up in MLK. I can't remember the name of the neighborhood. Oh well. The brain.
Of the restaurant.
Huh?
About the name of the restaurant.
No, I was thinking of the name of the neighborhood, but I'm old.
That would help.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the restaurant. I'm an old man, Paul. Don't challenge me.
This is how old people remember.
This is my reading, Paul. Come on. Don't embarrass me.
You need a straight man.
Paul Jones, everybody. This is called You Are Forever a Visitor in Your Own Home. Every fortune cookie I crack open yields a little house for us to live in. Riches, travel, strangers with important messages. We don't get the same thrill from books, all promise on the dust jacket, but never over fast enough. We stopped reading before the honeymoon on Menorca. A man there in the sandal store has never forgotten your smile. I wonder if he thinks he was promised you. A psychic told me I would die at 52 of heart trouble. All these other troubles, aren't fatal. I've lived so many places without ever leaving the house because all the undiscovered countries are baked, plastic wrapped, shipped across the country we know, boxed, and delivered with our beef and broccoli. I'm prone to reckless fits of believing in you. This last one has lasted years. We still have boxes in the guest room full of books we read when we were single. We no longer need them. We'll never read them the same. We might enjoy them more now, but aren't willing to find out. You still have an ex-boyfriend in China who never shipped your clothes. You wouldn't wear them in the States anyhow, but you'd like the opportunity to show me before they go to Goodwill. Absence is the only malice some people have left to give. But I will be gone in 19 years, and you can blame the psychic for that if you don't blame me for believing it. I promise I meant no harm. I hope you'll travel to Majorca to see if anyone else got the fortune I got today. Soon a visitor will delight you. Oh, how you delight me. And you can tell how old I was when I wrote that poem, because now I'm only 4 years away from 52. And seriously, psychics don't tell children the year they're gonna die. That is a dick move. I mean, so wrong. This next poem, so a lot of times I have nothing that I want to write about, and I'm just like, what's in the news? You know, please God, give me something to write about. And so, you know, I'll hit up the news sites and see what's the weirdest headline today. And one day I found this, wrote this poem, and then at around 11:30, my best bud Matthew calls, and he's like, hey man. I was like, hey, what's going on? He's like, I started writing a poem about that headline, and then you sent yours. I was like, same headline? He was like, yeah, but I stopped. I was like, oh, then it must be good. Because otherwise he'd have been like, here's how it's done, chump. And here's the headline. Researchers in Wales say they have discovered the world's oldest living creature, a 405-year-old clam. It's called ocean quahog, which is the type of clam, but also Peter Griffin's hometown in Family Guy. Done counting rings, scientists claim the clam has lived 4 centuries. Poor sod. All that time, he never planned a trip, just mouth open to where the currents took him. That's a long time to lug a home around. But home is where the heart, kidney, and anus are, wherever the open circulatory system pumps. He deserves credit for persistence, but acknowledge the difficulty of a clam giving up. How would it look any different? Left in his bed in the Arctic deep long enough, undisturbed by shark or squid, living must be the surrender. So those 2 poems were sort of like meditations on aging to various degrees. But it turns out Charm Offensive is sort of a God book, doing a lot of stuff with God. For those of you who grew up in the South, how many of you grew up here in North Carolina? Yeah, a good number of us. So you'll be familiar with this phenomenon because I think people in the North don't get this. Helena's from the UK. I'm sure she's going to be like, really? Why do you do this thing? But you've seen it. In the South, we like you to know that we're Christians by showing you on the backs of our cars. Like, that's a big thing. We're like, you got to see this. All right? You know this? You know this tactic? I got a little voice that I have to do for this poem. In fact, let me I'll take a sip of water here. Forgive me for this. Believer, affix a fish to your SUV. Jesus is love, but never more so than on the highway when he delivers us from mid-sized sedans unto our destinations. when he absolves us of our emissions. I want an anti-lock, all-weather Christ to emerge after 3 days in the median. Believer, evangelism requires a little asphalt, a little balm for the road rage of the travelers who passed their injured neighbor before the Good Samaritan gave roadside assistance. I need a Ford tough savior to perform certain miracles, pay the tolls in their wicked plazas, abolish the speed traps in the temples, truck courageous into eternal sunrise. I want Hot Rod Yahweh Jr. to rev the engine of my love for fellow motorists. A love I forget a little more with each on-ramp, every parking lot, anytime someone putters along at 53 on an interstate. May he bless me, Turnpike Christ, as he raises his hands to embrace the long handles of the chopper. May he anoint me in motor oil. Forgive me for buying Japanese. May he learn to love me again after I've taken his name in vain or wished a wreck upon the tailgater. May he make faith easy as a decal and carry me past the overpasses. One set of tread marks screeching safely to halt when there should have been two. So that's my preacher voice. I'm going to seminary next year. You guys, yeah. Let me read one more of these God poems. Like I said, the book was done essentially in 2012, but I did add. This is one of the poems I added in 2016, again, the book was accepted, years and years ago, but by the time it came out, this poem read a little differently. Just FYI. I know what love is. What if the angels, with their conch-shaped trumpets, their dainty bows and arrows, don't really give a shit about us? What if they gather in heavenly circles at the mouth of the clouds to stare down on field mice, on ferrets, on millipedes? We think angels take human shape because our ancestors painted them that way. But those were the same ancestors who toiled through the dark ages, who took a long damn time to discern that the heart wasn't the seat of intelligence. I'd say they suffered at times from a lack of imagination. Sure, they fashioned rocks into the tips of spears. Sure, they managed some empires. And sure, they figured out which knotweeds would dye the wool, which berries would pigment the oils. Make, if you want, a case for human ingenuity, but I vote against us when it comes to knowledge of the divine. In Chronicles, God sends an angel to slaughter the Assyrian army. In Numbers, he opens chasms to swallow the defiant. He burns with holy fire those gathered in worship. He sets a plague on 14,000. Imagine writing those words thinking, yes, this is the God who loves me. I don't think he much cares about us. I think the next tornado, the next tsunami, the next antibiotic-resistant strain will be whimsy and afterthought. I think he's the God of rats, the God of ticks, surrounded in heaven by legions of slim thoraxed angels flapping swallowtail wings, spitting venom into each other's many prismed eyes. I think he's created the virus in his own image, and he loves the virus enough to create an endlessly adaptable food source for it that also serves as a means of conveyance. So yeah, that reads differently now. Yeah. I read that to one crowd and they were like, "You caused COVID." I was like, "Okay, that's it." And they were like, "That's God's wrath." I was like, okay, not nice. So I'm gonna read a poem that I didn't think I was gonna read tonight, but many of you here, many beloved friends, I'm forcing you to be on the internet this semester. I have a class. We're talking about poetic community, and I've asked them to like connect with poets on social media, which is the only reason to use social media left, as near as I can tell. But this is a poem about being on social media. Performativity. You see me, I know. You eye me. You scan columns of me and rows within the columns. You click photos of me and clock my doings, I know. Gawk at my breakfasts. Peep me. Load me to get a load of my most recent outsized feeling. A rail against injustice. A barb toward the president. A hint of unnamed sickness I let slip. Oh God, it's exhausting showing all this. I know you empath so hard. Tap like or heart to project your regard for my bravery. Necessary to dole out like scoops on the cone, the harm befalling me daily. I know you strength me. You sorry that happened me. You sending a hug me. It's never enough to shutter the factory. Inside me is industry, manufacturing miseries. Your clicks the coal, your eyes the turbines. You engine me, assembly me, repackage and label me, distribute me. Where once the world brambled me, the tear not so deep, no more than a scratch. You salve the wound with oil and honey and milk and sometimes well-intentioned salt and hashtags and bravery, bravery, bravery. I think we're past that moment where everyone online is like, "Oh, I got a bad sandwich at Subway," and everyone's like, "You're so brave for sharing your story." I hope we're past that moment. I really do. How does two more sound? Does two more sound okay? All right, I'm gonna go in here. This is called Bad News for Mortals in Forests. Because if you're a mortal, don't go in the forest. That's a bad plan. But wait, are you guys going in the forest later? Uh-oh. Listen, it's about to be October. Never go in a forest in October. I've seen movies. I know how this works.
Persimmons are worth it, though.
That's true. It's true. Bad news for mortals in forests. If I could be a god, I too would descend in the form of an eagle, swan. I too would adopt plumage, lustrous black and brilliant, stained in early evening a deep purple, the color of ink under vinegar. I too would be sour. I too would glide over boulders and dunes on violet breezes, interrogating the wind for its secrets. I too would trick my wife into transforming into a fly and swallow her, even if she fashioned in my head not just a suit of armor, but a toy army of mechanical men, the racket and clanging of 1,000 anvils smithing the space between my ears. I too would agree to have my head split upon an axe, if only to see what would spring forth fully formed, though in my case, no daughter would, just 1,000 tin clocks, orderly and automated, ticking away seconds with clenched fists and puckered faces. And on the hours, they would spout tiny copper eagles, bronze swans. I too would return to Olympus, laurel and throne, to await the inevitable moment when I would grow bored with those children, because I, too, would grow bored. Twilight would send its whispers, its itches, and I would once again take wing. All right. Let's see here. One last one. Thank you guys for listening. That was really kind of you. Any readers, any lovers of Bridget Picking Kelly in the room? Yeah. BPK, the best. If you took intro with me, you heard Song by Bridget Picking Kelly on your first day. And this poem steals an image from her. Rather clumsily, but that was sort of the point. Because how do you do as good as Bridget Kelly? Oh. Two swans. I am keeping very still. My pants hiked, my socks rolled down over the mouth of my sneakers, so limb leads can read my heart at an angle. Shirtless, pressed flat to paper, pulled over the creaky plastic exam table. The leads on my chest pump electrical information to the EKG machine for interpretation. The nurse says, "You seem a little anxious." And I am. But how can she tell? I am keeping very still. The physician's assistant says, "Try thinking of something you enjoy." But I can't seem to think of anything. A picture on the wall displays a proud, healthy cartoon heart, bloodless and stripped of its ventricles. I am thinking of swans. I don't enjoy swans, but here they are, too, in the mental picture I'm supposed to calm myself with, gliding towards each other on a flat lake, a lake whose surface doesn't crease for ripples, so calm that it might as well be ice, until they almost meet, and in the negative space between them, their craned necks form the outline of a heart, a healthy cartoon heart. I am keeping very still. I was told electrocardiograms require stillness for an accurate reading. Sudden movement would upset the machine. Sudden movement would scare away the swans. Aside from breathing, I haven't moved an inch. I am reminding myself that I have to breathe, that breathing does not preclude stillness, that I was told to keep very still. I am keeping very still. The machine makes a sound, printing a reading, then another. I tell myself not to be humiliated, but am always humiliated with my shirt off, this white belly. I've resorted to jokes with my wife. "There's a baby kangaroo in this pouch I got." Or, "Blackbeard hid his treasure here, but you can't dig it out till I'm dead." What are those leads digging out of me and sending back for analysis? I am keeping very still, hoping keeping still won't be a permanent condition. There's someone outside the exam room. I can hear the scrape of chart against a door. I know the light streaming in the crack under the door is now broken by 2 feet. I have looked at light under enough exam room doors to recognize that break. Someone standing, chart in hand, thinking about coming in, thinking, again, this poor bastard. I would crane my neck to see his feet's twin shadows, but I am keeping very still. I am thinking of swans. I am thinking of a dead doe's legs upturned, the white of her bloating belly appearing at a distance to be 2 swans. No, not dead, just a doe, upturned and still. That's it, the nurse says. I can get up, can dress, can wait, can watch the twin shadows come, pause, go. That's it. A new doctor, the last set of shadows says. I'm fine. I can put on my coat and go home, can skip admit on my way out. The printouts from the EKG machine, drawings in an unsteady hand, are the downward strokes of a feather, a clumsy attempt at a wing, and all that peaceful white space, 2 swans stuck in ice. I can go now. I can get off the table. But I can't. I don't. I am keeping very still. Thank you. Y'all, my heart is so full to see you. If you need to sneak out, feel free at any time, but I'm also happy to take any questions about poems or about fashion sense, of which I have clearly quite a lot. What can I tell you? Travis Smith. Hey, Travis.
Okay, so softball for you,
Yeah.
easy one.
Yes.
How
Where do I
does
get
your-
my ideas? Thanks.
Yeah. How does your background as a performer inform your writing broadly?
Okay, so Travis knew me in my younger days, and I knew him in his younger days when we did comedy together a long time ago. Travis was roughly 6 years old when we were doing it. No, you were in high school then. Yeah. So yeah, you were a baby. Look, you're still baby faced. So, you know what's weird is that coming from a comedy background, there were a lot of years where I was really kind of nervous to let comedy into poems because I felt like, oh, that domain is part of a life that I'm kind of like putting in the closet for a little while. And so I kind of was like, well, don't be funny. Don't allow yourself to be funny. Because I thought poetry needed to be a little more serious. I was exploring the deeper side of myself. But the fact of the matter is that the things that you learn in a writing class are the same things you learn in a performance class, which is listen to what's really happening. Heighten the tension that you find there. Find what's interesting about what's already in place and go in that direction. Be open to surprise and to delight, and occasionally be loud. So I've tried to start to do more of that in poems. And I've tried to let some of the humor come back in. But yeah, you know, in comedy, if you had someone who was like, that was not a great feeling half the time because it was like, oh, we've offended someone to give it. But so I like being able to sort of flex a different muscle and use the comedy to get to that. But the tactics are almost entirely the same. And so much of my writing advice actually comes from improv comedians rather than other poets. Yeah, thank you for that softball.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Helen.
Reading so many poems every year with Ball City Press and with your students' poems, what gems or lessons from the poems you read found your way into this?
Oh man, so that's the thing. You never want to read a poem that's on submission and not accept it and then have it filter into your work, right? Like, because that would be awful. But of course, you can't help it because every poem you read, whether you take great delight in the reading of it or you feel like, oh, this kind of missed the mark, every poem you read makes you a better poet. Every book you read makes you a better writer. It's always true. And so I think certainly reading a lot of books on submission taught me a lot of things about how to make a book different from what a lot of editors were going to see over and over again. I learned a lot about pacing. I learned a lot about how you open a book. So that was super useful. But you know, the biggest thing it's given me, Helena, is hope. Because, you know, and I was talking to your class about this, like so much of poems on submission as an editor, you have to say no to. And it's always like a dreadful feeling. You want to say yes, you're dying to say yes. And that deep desire to say yes has kept me hopeful, because I know that sooner or later an editor is going to be dying to say yes, and my book is going to be or my poem is going to be the one that they're like, yes, this is the moment where I can invest fully. And I think you need endless hope. And I think when you're a writer who's not editing, it's really easy to feel discouraged by the, knowing that there are a million poets out there and we're all submitting and we all want to be in the same magazines. It's not I'm going to get a lot of rejection. Like, yeah, you are. That's a testament to the fact that poetry is so resilient that people write all the time without knowing if it'll ever go anywhere. The act itself is so beautiful and so hopeful and wonderful. And to be surrounded by that year after year after year is like the greatest gift. The greatest gift. And I know that like when I have to tell a writer no and it's like a form rejection, they're just like, well, the editor doesn't like me. It's like, you have no idea how much I love you for having that hope and keeping it here with me and sharing that with me. So yeah, thank you.
So of course you're a professor, one of the best ones. I'm sure most people will agree with me.
Your $5 is in the mail.
And of course, your experience in writing would inform your teaching. But how has teaching over the years informed your writing?
Thank you. God, that's a great question. Mostly I take all of Amory and Ash's best ideas and then I steal them and then they're like, no. Again, it's that hope. Because, like the hope required to write a poem is so great. But a lot of times students arrive in my intro classes and they're not sold on whether or not they want to write poems. And I think one or two of you in the room maybe arrived in that state. And there are a few greater joys, but not many in this world, than that moment in a classroom where we're reading a poem that I love and wanted to share, and I can like see on someone's face the moment where they go from like, I'm skeptical about poems to I am so into poems now. Because I don't think there can be enough poetry in the world. I think that if we had more poetry in the world, we'd be a kinder, gentler people. Like I would really love to send just like carpet bomb Washington in poems, right? Because I think it would do wonders for the world if some of those folks could read. And and so the chance to like help activate that, it drives me back to the page in hopes that maybe like some way, somehow, one day, somebody's gonna share one of my poems and someone's gonna like come alive to the poem from that. That just feels like, and of course, like the writer never knows it. The writer, and maybe at a reading someday you go up to your hero and you're like, oh my God, you're the reason I'm writing poems. But the writer doesn't see that moment that I get to see, where I've shared their poem and somebody's like, I see potential in everything around me in a way that I didn't 5 minutes ago. God, that feels good. It feels really good. So, yeah. Does that answer the question? I don't know if I fully did. I think that might have just been me being like, you're right, man, I am a good teacher. I didn't mean to do that. Oh, thanks, Ash. I'm stealing all your ideas. Yeah. What else can I tell you? Anything? Anybody else have questions? You don't have to. We could just break and take this party over to Lucha Tigre. Thank you guys so much for coming. It's been a joy to share.
You also can place an order for a book, so feel free to do that if you didn't get a Charm Adventure tonight. Ross will do some book plates or come back and we will. So, yes, you can still get the book. Thanks, everybody.
Really fucking good.
For our anniversary.
It's a city to the top of. If I have a chance to play outside of what I mean, yeah, I wanted to. Because I also, like, the mention of wanting to talk to you about I'll see, you'll see when the first poems that got me was a collection of comic
Did not believe that it was amazing. Anytime anyone brings up that role, I mean, also just.
It's so good. It's so good.
Oh, see, look.
I'll be sitting alone.
See? That's cute.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell are you saying?